What's going on, guys? So we have a special video for you today. I actually have another really cool F450 parked next to me. This is a gentleman from LCI, and he's going to be doing a bunch of fabricating on the RV today. So as you all know, I was a big fan of this really cool tailgate storage system from LCI that I had on my previous Coachman Chaparral, and I missed it so much, wanted to get it added to my new Coachman Brookstone. So the folks over at LCI sent a technician out. They're going to do all sorts of cool modifications to the RV today. It's actually going to be a several day process, so I'm going to film all of it if I can. But yeah, I'll go over some of it here in a second. Hang tight. I'll be right back. All right, so the second part of what they're going to do is actually reinforce the shackle hangers down here. This part right there. And what you might ask is, well, did they not do it good enough when we got the RV? And the fact is that this specific RV from Coachman is set up perfectly fine. It really doesn't need to happen. But because my unit is so much heavier than a production unit or a unit that you might typically buy at a dealership, I just opted to get them reinforced because I wanted that additional assurance that I'm not going to have a shackle hanger failure. So the reality is, do I need it done? No. But is it good peace of mind? Absolutely. And this is actually a service I believe that they can do for you in Elkhart. So if you take your RV up there, or if you can get a technician to come out to you, this is probably something that they could do for you for a charge, of course. Now, they're going to do a really cool kind of reinforcement to the shackle hangers, and it's specific. So you might think, well, I just can box the whole thing and I'm going to be fine. But there's actually a specific process and way that it needs to be done, because believe it or not, there still needs to be some flex integrated into that, because you just don't want it to be overly rigid, because it can cause other types of stresses and fatigues over time. So that's definitely something we'll pay close attention to when he gets there. We're going to reinforce the shackle hangers. And there's a specific way to do that, isn't there? It's not just like boxing the thing in and making it look all rigid and box, because you want some flex with it, right?
We're going to do it to where it looks clean. So these are what go in there. We call them hanger reinforcement clips. So best way to show you, probably up there at the hanger.
Let's do it.
All right. So what we're going to do.
Okay, and that still allows some flex in there too, right?
Some movement. There's not a ton of flex in it, but what we're doing is with that projecting down here, we've taken out the leverage on that hanger.
Yeah.
Because this is the lowest most point, and everything else is up above. And you weld it here to the main rail, to the I-beam, and then to the ears of the hanger inside here. And so where that point's at, like I said, you kind of draw this down, it projects down into there, and it's still, I can still get my finger above the equalizer, the road armor here, so everything can still rotate, equalize, move, do all of what it's supposed to do, and it just gives that hanger a little bit more support. You can't get much better of a setup than you got going on here with the heavy duty shackle links. They're greasable, everything's lubricated. So with this, you're just beefing it up that much more.
Okay, so we are here at the back of the fifth wheel, and the biggest challenge we have, besides him pulling a huge snake out of the bumper, is creating a mount that's going to allow this to fold up and clear the 50 amp connector here in the back. This process is going to require him to extend the bumper out. He's actually brought another bumper with him, so he's going to be replacing this bumper. He's going to extend the rails right here to bring the bumper out to about here, so he can use the actual mounts, which I think are in the back of the truck, that allow this to flip up, the hinges essentially. And he is going to fabricate a means of bringing this back, mounting it, but then he's also going to have to stack it up, so when it's up, it clears the 50 amp cord connection right here, which I know this is kind of an unusual location for it. They probably could have put it like right here, which would have made it a little bit easier to work with. But the challenge we have now is making sure that it's stacked up high enough to clear the 50 amp connector.
One way or the other, we'll figure it out. There's no doubt about it. We'll take our time and make sure we get it right. But yeah, we're going to get it up there where you want it.
This is Matt with LCI. This is one cool dude, and he's got a lot of really, really cool stories. Man, you work on RVs all the time, so you probably see the craziest things.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when when you see something new, you think, boy, I think I've seen it all. And then you see something new and you're like, well, maybe now I've seen it all. So yeah, there's crazy stuff that happens to RVs. So
yep. One thing that he talked to me about, and I'm not going to go into the details of it, but why it's so important to adhere to your rated actual weight capacity of this receiver when you're not using it for towing, which you shouldn't be using it for towing unless it's specifically designed for that. But yeah, there's some really interesting things that can happen if you exceed that, or if you just press your luck and try to go to that very, very maximum capacity of that thing. So definitely, guys, when we talk about not using that to haul a trailer, don't use it to haul a trailer. A lot of bad things can happen. And you've probably seen just about everything.
Yeah, for sure. And you'll see them out on the highway and things like that. You know, a guy's got a boat or an enclosed trailer or something. I've even seen it where, you know, a fifth wheel's got a hitch on the back and a guy's pulling a little single axle, smaller travel trailer with him too. And it changes a lot of the way the unit was designed to begin with. And yes, please, for your sake, for the sake of the people that are out there on the highways with you, and for the sake of your investment, don't pull a trailer with your trailer.
Yep. And I think the best way to put this is, right off the bat, you might think that all the leverage you're putting on it is happening back here on the receiver, that your receiver is the failure point. But think about it this way. When you add weight to this, especially weight that can move when you're driving down the road and it can fluctuate, it's going to spread across the entire fifth wheel frame, across your sidewalls, across the superstructure and substructure of your RV. So there's a lot of reasons to adhere to what they talk about when they say what these things are designed for. All right, so Matt's got the rear receiver off. This is going to give him the measurements he needs to know what the interior dimensions are between the two wings down here that hold it, so it lets him know where to place some of the materials that he's going to be cutting. Okay, so continuing on, one of the conversations we just had was he noticed that I had sprayed some white lithium grease on the actual arms for the rack and pinion slide system, and he goes, you don't want to do that because it collects grit and grime and it can get it into the actual gear system. So I'm going to clean all that off, and he very graciously gave me a can of what you should use, the CRC Power Lube. So this specific type of lube is a dry lube, and it's designed to essentially go on and not collect grit and grime. And another thing he told me, which was a really, really profound piece of information, is if you have a slide system that uses a Schwintech technology, which is that in-wall slide system with the rails, you do not grease that. He said you absolutely do not grease that. If you're having a problem with the slide going in and out, it's not because of that, and you could actually cause significantly more damage by greasing a Schwintech slide system. So, Schwintech slides, non-greasable system, do not grease them. Thumbs up for that? There you go. Okay, so Matt has the belly pulled down right here. You can see the kind of astrofoil material they have, the radiant barrier material, and then the plastic underneath. And this is kind of an example of what David from Coachman went over when he said that the panels are removable down here, which gives you really, really easy access into the underbelly of the RV if you need to get to it, as opposed to having to cut panels out. Another thing you'll notice about this unit is that there's no batted insulation down there. And the reason why, because I asked specifically about that, he goes, if you ever have a water issue, you may not know about it because that batted insulation absorbs all of that water. And when you do find out about it, that insulation is so heavy that it can actually make the floor fall out while you're driving. So they opted not to put any in the floor area right there and to just use the radiant barrier, which I know is going to be inferior compared to, you know, a batted insulation in terms of R value. However, that was the reason for it. They didn't feel that it made sense, considering any type of water leak can be absorbed into that, and it can get really, really heavy, and you may not know until it all falls out. Okay, so Matt is suited up for this. He's just going to cut this part off right here so he has a clean work surface to start fabricating. All right, so he's got the back bumper broke free. He is doing some work over here to grind everything smooth so he can do some welding. Now it looks like a lot of the other RVs that don't come with bumpers anymore. But he'll be attaching a new bumper. So So there's the new bumper. There's some of the structural steel. We got more of it down here. He came prepared to do whatever he needs to do. Okay, so he is positioning the new elongated brackets that will be holding the new bumper on and some of the hardware. If you guys didn't realize, it's very hot outside today. Are you used to this kind of humidity?
Not the humidity. The heat don't bother me, but boy, it's humid.
Yeah.
It's thick.
Got like 94% humidity out today. It's like swimming, except you lack the cool refreshingness of cold water.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so he has the boxed sections. What are those, 1.5 or 2x2s?
2x2. 2x2 11 gauge.
Okay, these are 2x2 inch and 11 gauge thick pieces of metal that he is welding together. And that will raise the brackets right here high enough so it clears the 50 amp connector whenever everything's said and done. I know it's a lot of modifications for a rack like that, but it's definitely worth it. Okay, so everything is essentially tacked in place, but what I want to show you here is this 2x4 boxed section that he's adding. The thickness of that steel is significantly thicker than the steel right here. Is it actually? It looks like it's a little thicker.
It's a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, this looks like it's probably, what, 14 gauge?
Probably maybe 14, yeah.
And then this right here is 11.
That's 11.
And then also, if you notice on the bottom, there's no completed weld. That might be to drain water out, I'm not sure.
That's exactly what that's for.
Okay.
To get that water to come out. Moisture condensation, that way if you get somewhere cold, it don't freeze up and bust that tube.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, so things are coming along really well over here. Looks like you have pretty much everything welded in place at this point. He's about to hang the bumper. He's putting this clamp here so it can support the bumper while he welds it in place. Very cool. All right, so Matt just called me out to look at the finished product. Haven't seen it yet. This is gonna be kind of a walk around reveal. Wow. Look at that, it's all painted. Even has the water effects coming down off each side for, no, I'm kidding, the AC is running inside. Check that out. Welds look good. I mean, me being the master welder I am, I approve of, no, I'm kidding, I know nothing about welding.
Hammer, see if it breaks.
Very nice. So I guess
all we gotta do, and I have to tell you, I'm off a 1/16 of an inch.
that's tragic, man.
If that's okay. That used to be at 2.5, and I'm at 2 9/16. So I hope you'll let me get away with it.
Can we start over? Do we have time in the day?
I could.
Where's the sun?
Not today though. I'm a little soaking for today. So, but yeah, all we gotta do is put that on there, see how she functions. But if you stand back, I'm pretty dang positive we're gonna miss our ladder, we're going to be within the confines of the tail lights and still be able to see the license plate, the whole 9 yards there. And we ought to be high enough to where it's not going to affect the door there, I hope. So
yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape. I'm excited to see. Now, we're missing some pins. So
yes,
the pins didn't arrive. The pins are what actually hold it either in its down position or its up position, and those are going to be in here tomorrow.
Yep.
But I think we'll still be able to run the bolts through and kind of get it looking the way it needs to look. I mean, we could actually just have it set down because...
Yeah. Just as long as we have a pivot point on either side, we can go up, down, or can lay down, or we can flip it up.
Now, the only thing I'm concerned about, and I only realized this because my previous fifth wheel had this, when it was in the down position, there were 2 rubber grommets that rested on the top of the bumper.
Not anymore, because we raised it.
Okay. So where do those rubber grommets sit? Or do we have to put a platform for them to sit on?
Well, we'll have to get it in there and see.
Yeah, because I didn't even think about that until now, because I remember they rested on the actual bumper.
Yeah,
and again,
4 inches higher.
he had to add both of these to raise these up high enough to clear the 50 amp connection. So what we didn't calculate was the fact that we might have to put a spacer right here to be able to support the weight of the bumper, or sorry, to be able to rest the rubber bushings of the rack on when it's in its down deployed position. So I guess what we'll really have to do is just bolt it up and see how it hangs.
We'll just dummy them through there. Basically we're gonna make pivot points out of it.
Yep.
Let me think here.
Okay, so once we get the 4 pins in that we need, basically the pin that goes here and here, and in these positions, whether it's up or down, we'll be able to pin it in place and let you see specifically what it looks like with those. But this is essentially how it'll be in its upright position. And then once it drops down, it'll rest right around here, and this is where we'll have to support those rubber bushings on there.
I gotta come up with something for that.
There we go. Keep in mind that this is a highly modified version. This is not how the system would traditionally look, because this portion right here would typically mount directly to this rail, and that 50 amp connection right there would be on the side of the RV. It's a little bit stiff, but there we go.
Look at that.
But that was the main reason why we had to do it. We had to be able to have access to the 50 amp connection.
Because before you said you were running into it kind of
exactly.
like that. So there, that 4 inches gained us that room. It looks like it's supposed to be there.
Yep.
And when you're parked, you just flip that thing up out of the way, pin it, you plug in, and you go camping and have a cold beer. That's perfect.
And the key behind this is that Matt really understands the dynamic and the engineering behind the LCI frame. So the reason why this is something that he needed to do is he understands where he can weld to, what he can weld to, and how he can do this to maintain the warranty on the frame, to maintain the structure without possibly attaching to something that isn't the right area to attach to. So that's something you want to keep in mind.
So in a perfect world, that slack would come out of it. It's gonna run 90 off that bumper.
Yeah, so what we're talking about here is that he could either build a little platform up on top, or we could go the cool Texas way and we could just stack the old bumper on top of the new bumper, which would literally give us the exact space that we need, because he went up 4 inches here. What we can do here is we could take this bumper, stack it on top of that bumper, and have this really cool Texas beefy bumper on the back. Oh, never mind.
You won't be able to get to your 50 amp.
Yep, won't be able to get there. The only thing you could do then is cut off the sides and attach it. Well, I mean, that's a question. Could you cut this?
Cut 2 pieces about 16 inches long and run it in that way.
That's what I was about to say.
Well, they would be, well, we're offset this way about 3 inches to clear that ladder. So
but you could actually run it in a little further than 3 inches on this side, just so it matches on each side.
Yeah, so
you could run it 15 inches on each side. It'll overhang this side a little bit.
That's what I want to see here for a dummy way of looking at it.
So by the way, Matt's idea was to go and do this the right way, go to Lowe's or Home Depot, pick up the steel he needed, but I'm like, you know what? This is Texas. We don't waste steel.
Dude, as soon as you said, let's make it look hardcore like Texas, I said, screw it, let's do it. Now, I want to do this. So let's.
Are we going to weld those tape measures there too? That looks really cool.
No, I'll get some stick on it, man, like you put on a table saw or something. So this is about the best way I could do it. Let's do it this way. There's 16. There's 16. Even though it would look cool, I won't be able to stand myself if somebody can notice it going down the road and it looks cattywampus. So that would look square. It should be the same coming in on either end. When I had the tapes pulled out, I had this one pulled out farther. So it looked like the distance from the hitch being center point, it was shorter on one side than the other. But now both of them are pretty much at 16 inches at the front. Okay.
My only challenge with doing this is I won't be able to use my nifty hose inside of the end with my little holder. That's a magnetic holder. It goes over the end.
Oh,
these are stacked on. Yeah.
I thought this end screwed in.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, just this end screws in.
No, well, it uses magnets right here to go inside. But honestly, I don't need to use those. So yeah, I'm cool with doing it the cool guy way.
Okay. 16 inches.
Can you cut that?
No, you can't. It's your idea.
Can I use your tools?
Absolutely. You want to cut metal with fire, buddy? I will teach you. No, we'll use the Sawzall and try to make it straight.
Worst possible scenario, we lost a bumper we were going to lose anyways.
Yeah, I was going to leave it under your trailer anyway.
Yeah. I was going to hang it on the wall.
Well, it's going to be a lot easier here in a little bit. It's going to be quite a bit smaller.
Okay, so the bumper project is on hold until tomorrow, whenever he can get the components he needs so we can stack the bumpers up and get that ready to go. We have other projects that are currently happening right now at the same time. So we'll be back tomorrow to film some more. Hopefully you guys enjoy this series. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and hopefully we'll have some completed projects next time you see the video.